Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening, wherever you are on this glorious planet. I'm Ariel.
It's a glorious day here. I'm Shia. Sun's come up. It's becoming spring, finally.
Yes. Welcome to being here.
Yes.
What if you can't do your life wrong?
No, really?
What if you can't do it right either?
Yeah. Well, then maybe you could just live.
Then all that's left is perfection.
Right. Rather than worry about if you're doing it right.
Oh, man. Even if you're worrying about doing it right or doing it wrong, that's perfect too. You can't be any different than you are in this moment
of now.
Now we finish each other's sentences. Sometimes
can't
we
do it right, can't do it wrong.
speak. That's right. Let's talk about listening.
Yeah. Not thinking about. But
actually
listening. Rather than seeing whether you agree with or disagree with what's being said.
Yes.
To disagree or agree with what's being said, you have to compare what's being said to what you already believe to be true. That's not listening. That's comparing what's being said to what you believe is true. And then you come on agreeing with it or disagreeing with it, but that's not listening to it. Now, why all this talk about listening? Well, it's based in the second principle of instantaneous transformation, that no two things can occupy the same space at the same time. So if you're truly listening, rather than comparing things that are said to what you already know, you'll get pulled into the current moment of your life, and you'll get pulled out of the story of your life where you think that you are your thoughts. Suddenly, your thoughts stop when you truly listen. It's when you're thinking about what's being said, you're not truly listening to what's being said. You're comparing it to what you know and seeing if it applies to you or to one of your agendas. If you have an agenda to get somewhere or have things turn out the way you want, then you'll disagree with what doesn't agree with that agenda and agree with what does agree with that agenda. In either case, you're not in the current moment of your life. Your current moment is occupied by your thoughts.
Sometimes your agenda is pressuring you to be different.
Your agenda is pressuring you to be agendaless.
To make a difference.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, what good would it be if you just showed up here on planet Earth to live out the amount of years you have to live out, and when you're finished, it's done, and it doesn't make any difference at all? Like all the other things that came before us, including people and events. Oh, that's depressing.
That was deep. Was it meaningful? I don't know. Now we're just talking.
But anyway.
We're not going anywhere. We're just being here today.
See, our approach is not about getting you better or free from your upsets. Now, of course, if you get into the current moment, you will be free from your upsets, because upsets are old mechanical behaviors that take over your life when situations show up in a way that activates the upset.
You know, I imagine some of you have been listening to our podcast for quite a long time. We're
years.
15 years now of producing Being Here. And I was speaking to a lady this morning, a wonderful woman who was scheduled to be on the show. And she called us up quite early and said, you know, I don't think I should be on because I'm really upset. And I don't think people should have to listen to that. And whilst it's fine with us that she's not here with us today because we respect her wishes, we told her that this show is about opening the door and seeing how we are in this moment, right as the door opens or the window lifts. It's not about being a better us.
I didn't
begin.
speak to this woman,
Mhm.
but I am convinced that she wants to be upset, because if she speaks to us, she won't be.
Yes, but also additionally, the thing,
The
the
circumstances.
said that she's upset about or she's finding challenging are fairly personal. So we told her, hey, if it feels too personal to come out here, that is totally fine too. I told her because
Yeah.
clearly I was
I wasn't on the call.
and I had a headset on, so you didn't hear any of it. But I realized that it's also possible that you've
Well,
developed
actually-
this into a new religion where you have the transformer version of you or the transformed version of you and the better version of you. And then there's all the ones you don't approve of. It's just a new system for your own personal disapproval.
Well, you said you had your headsets on and I couldn't hear the conversation, but I spied on it when I walked through the kitchen, saw the light flashing on the phone. And I was actually hoping that she'd make it. So,
I was too.
We could relieve her of her discomfort. But, you know, people need to be upset when they're upset. Otherwise,
well, I also
they'd give it
invited
up.
her to Living Made Easy, and she said she felt more comfortable speaking about it with a more closed group. And so that's fine. She'll come, we'll talk, or we won't.
You know, what I find interesting is there's nothing you can't talk about, but there are certain social ideas or conventions that we've been brought up in that have certain things be right and other things be wrong,
Right.
certain things be good and other things be bad. So the desire to not be exposed as having foibles or idiosyncrasies or something that people think they should be over or better than keep us from having a full life. Because, you know, you have emotions. They come, they go. If you don't blame the emotions on the events that preceded them, then they disappear. They lose their control of your life. If you blame your emotions on what happened most recently, then you'll be misguided. It will not complete the emotion. It will just perpetuate what you resist persisting, which is actually the first principle of instantaneous transformation. You know, your life unfolds the way it does. How you approach it, how you experience it is up to you. And for the most part, we've been trained to blame other things or other people or other events for our feelings and emotions. And that undermines who we are. You know, it has been said that you are God in your universe. And how you relate to your universe determines how your universe shows up. And I'm a firm, I was going to say believer in that. I'm an advocate, or that fits my reality, my way of seeing life. That if you say life sucks, you get to be right and life sucks. If you say life is a miracle and it's a gift that you've been allowed to be alive, that's another experience of living.
You know, it occurs to me, though, in the socialization process, we've all been trained to express ourselves in the middle lane. So if things are challenging, like if there's trouble at home, we are trained to hide that. Trouble with our kids, trouble with our spouse, trouble with our, you know, we hide that. If things are going really well, we've just won an award, we got promoted at work, that's bragging. So we should kind of, you know, only tell certain people about that. We shouldn't express that. So pretty soon everything gets whittled down.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I was out on the river yesterday fishing, and I bumped into a member of the trout club that is actually the president of the trout club. And he was on the river there. He asked me how I'm doing. And I said, I'm doing great. Now, our son passed away
in December
of this year. He had an accident, a catastrophic brain injury. And so he didn't recover. Yes. He didn't recover. And I know that the president of the track club knows because Ariel spoke to one of the members about it. And I'm sure it got back because, the track club is sort of like a little community of
Little
people.
family.
It's a family. Everybody knows everything. So, but he was wanting me to express my grief that he thought I should have over my son's passing.
Can I give you another interpretation?
Yes.
I suspect there's also a possibility that he would hope you would say something to give him an opening to be able to express his condolences, that he may not have wanted to volunteer it without.
I like your, I like your interpretation.
He
better than
actually
mine.
cares about you, but
I
he
know.
doesn't know how to broach that without
you're
your
right,
permission.
because he stayed far away from me.
Mhm.
He came out of the river maybe 50 or 60 feet upriver from me and went around me to go fish down below.
Which is proper stream etiquette, by the way.
Yes. But I noticed that, in the past, he's come up and hugged me and was friendly.
He wanted to give you some space.
Yep.
So
in any event, he expects me to hold on to my grief over the loss rather than move on with my life. Now, you can either complain about how your life has showed up, or you can live it as it shows up. And complaining about it, grieving over it, doesn't change the circumstance.
However,
I have my own Buddha with me here.
Another perspective.
Yes.
Grieving about something is not a failure, because I recall, that in the moment you were standing in the river, for instance, you were experiencing well-being.
Yes.
And that maybe in general with you, and we have this technology and way of living life that we have been exercising for years. So it makes it easier to be here, including trauma and loss. In 2019, when I lost my mother, when she passed away, and I would close my eyes and the moments of her death would replay. And there was a period of time where that experience processed out. And I'm sure it's true for some of our listeners as well, when they have a loss of a family member or a friend or something that touches them deeply. If you're experiencing grief and it's not an immediate passing and it's gone and on to the next thing, that's not a failure either. None of it's a failure. If you're feeling well after somebody passes, that's not a failure. If you're feeling sad, that's not a failure. You cannot do your life right, and you cannot do your life wrong.
This is true, but we have been programmed to grieve over loss, and extensive grief over loss makes you mean you love the person more.
Well, that was the thing. And I know we have guests waiting, but it occurs to me that one of the agendas I was talking about that pressures us, we have pressure to be a good person. So if we've been trained that a good person worries all the time about our children, or a good person grieves for X amount of time. I mean, it was protocol at one point that if a woman lost her husband, she either wore black for the rest of her life, or at very least for a year. So we've been...
Well, there was a time that if a woman lost her husband, they'd put her in the grave with them.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, so
that's
times have changed, right?
With that cheery thought, let's take our first guest, shall we? Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Where are you zooming in from?
Hi, guys. I'm in Winnipeg, in Canada.
You enjoying our eclectic musings this morning?
I saw a map with where Winnipeg is. It's right pretty much in the center of the country.
It is, yeah. It's close to it's right on the south edge of Canada, but right in the middle.
Right in the middle. That's what I'm talking about, right in the middle.
Yeah.
Of the
Not
country.
Middle as toward north-south, but
middle towards east-west, right?
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
place just outside Winnipeg that you can go, and they've got a big sign set up saying this is the center point, the geographic center of Canada.
Right,
It's
right,
pretty
right.
cool.
Like the what are they, Continental Divide or something in this in the United States?
Oh, I don't know that one.
Yeah,
Hmm.
well, it's in the
Yeah.
United States. Why should you? You live in Canada.
I don't know about your country. You don't know about mine.
That's
That's
right.
right.
Oh, I know a little bit about yours. I know certain places to fish and
But you
certain
know what's
places I want to
it's funny,
fish.
yeah. I know about Canada. It's north of where I live.
Yeah. That's the old stereotype, isn't it? That the Americans don't know anything about Canada.
Yes, it
That's
is.
right.
Yeah.
So what can we do for you today, sir?
I'm loving listening to you guys. It's hearing where your conversation has gone has been um, really fun.
Hmm.
And as you've been talking, the idea of you can't do your life right, can't do it wrong, has been pulling up different things for me. And one of them is I recently came back after Christmas. I traveled to the UK where my girlfriend lives and stayed there until early February. And when I came back, that conversation about, well, I came back to not being with her and was feeling the loss of that and some loneliness and a big complaint about being back here again.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's just sat there. And one of the things that you guys said at the beginning of the show was the idea a transformed person will look a certain way and will not experience the. For me, when I heard that, I heard, yeah, the good transformed person shouldn't experience those things anymore.
Well, no, that isn't the case, you see. A good transformed person is the way they are in each moment of their life. And if that includes thinking they're in the wrong place, that's a thought you're having. You know,
And that's the perfect you, having the thought that life is imperfect.
right. We went to my son's memorial last week in California. And when I came home, I came back to the same house. I got into the same shower. You know, it was like but it's not the same. It's only the same if I say it's the same. See, if it's same old, there is no juice in life. But life shows up newly in each moment. It's your conversation that you listen to, your thoughts that you believe are you that determine your well-being. And if you think that, well, this sucks, believe me, it does. Because you are God in your universe. See, what you say becomes law.
But also, Dave, it's not a surprise that the weekend course that we are offering at the end of April and beginning of May is entitled Leap into Life. Because what you're describing is that malaise or that type of conversation that happens when you're sitting in the gap between one project and another, between one country and another, one activity, one investment and another. You came back and were not fully engaged yet. You hadn't leapt into your life here. You were still reminiscing about your life there. And that's what most of us do. We have a wind down period and then a gear up period.
Well, we have a past future type of thing. We think about the future is going to be better and the past was better. And this isn't it. I remember when I was 18 years old, maybe 19, I was in the Navy and I was in an EM club. That's an enlisted men's club at Floyd Bennett Naval Air Station in Brooklyn, New York. And I was sitting at the bar there, and there were two other sailors there. And one was telling me about the base he was going to and how wonderful it was. It had all kinds of recreational availabilities. You know, they had boats for them to use, and
So how great it was going to be.
how great it was going to be. And then they talked about the base they were at and how great it was or how bad it was. But this wasn't it. Where they were wasn't it. Something in the future would be better, and something in the past was better or worse. You know, best worse is pretty good too.
Yeah.
Who's got the worst best story or best worst story, as the case may be?
Well, I just want to, today must be my recontextualization day, because I was speaking with Shia a moment ago. I have an idea for you. Yes, I get you came home from being in England or the United Kingdom with your girlfriend. It'd been a wonderful time. You came back and you were feeling lonely, the loss. But had you stayed, you would have gotten lonely also. Not because anything had gone wrong with her, but because you have children in Canada who you are really devoted to. And if you go too long without investing in those people who are so important and dear to your heart and you care about, and you not only, I don't want to say obligation because it's a weird word, but you have a heartfelt need to be with them and invest with them. If you stayed too long away from them, your life would have started to wither. So great. I'm glad you felt lost with her. That's wonderful. But the idea that you should have stayed there longer is a faulty premise.
Well, it's just an idea. You know, an idea is a thought.
Well, it's kind of like having this huge bowl of ice cream. You eat it and go, man, I'd really like more. I mean, I'll tell you something. We have one of my favorite things in our home is our espresso machine. It makes it's clean. You put the stuff in, it takes the grind.
It grinds the beans. It makes perfect cup of coffee.
You know, I can have the idea, boy, I'd really like another cup of coffee.
Hey, you know, yesterday I was out on the river and I had to tie a fishing knot and I couldn't get my fingers to work. I had too much coffee. And I said, oh, this is too much coffee. I had one too many and it's not working here.
You know, I find that I have to be an adult. I have to, or I get to be here moment to moment, because there's some days where I can not only tolerate, but I can actually embrace more cups than other days. And it's really important that I'm here to see what's what. You have too much of something, you make yourself sick.
Yeah. Yeah, you're spot on with my kids.
And also, when you got back, I'm not sure if you'd seen them yet. You don't know if they're going to be a little
pissed at you
for having gone. If you're going to have to go through, if they're going to come running and throw their arms around you, or if you're going to have to reestablish yourself.
You see, you have a dog, and your dog doesn't resent when you leave. As soon as you come back, his tail starts wagging and he's all over you.
Yep.
Your kids, on the other hand, have a larger brain. They get some payback.
And they have socialization where they get to,
and they have friends.
I get to resent this guy.
Right. They have friends that teach them how to be nasty to their parents.
And if they're, the thing is, if you stayed, they'd resent you. If you went, they'd resent you, because they're moving into the resentful stage. When you have them young, they're like, daddy's home. When they get a little older, their brain advances to the I want to be myself, not him stage.
Yeah.
And
he's the reason that I'm screwed up.
Yeah. You know how dads are.
Right.
Yep. I know that very well from my own experience. Yeah. That's sweet. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. When I came back, the weather here when I arrived back was stormy. And so my first couple attempts to go see them, I couldn't, because the highways, they live about an hour and a half away, and you have to go over the highway to get there. And you just couldn't see. Visibility was too bad. So when I finally got to them, or when I got to see them, I think it was a couple days ago. It was really sweet. It was really sweet to be with them, and we had some time together. And I was going to see them today, but it's a blizzard again in Winnipeg today, and so
here, spring is starting to happen.
Now,
This is
mind
the second
you-
day in a row that it's above freezing.
Mind you, we are still in February when we're recording this. I know it won't be airing until mid-March, but yeah.
But yeah, it is like, as each time I plan, and I'm expecting to see them or whatever I'm doing, as the circumstances around me change out of my control, that immediate automatic thought of, man, getting down, all my plans are thwarted.
Well, what if
I have no control. I love it.
Dave, what if you take on the possibility that things are unfolding perfectly, it just isn't going along with your agenda? That it's perfect that you got stuck in Europe for an extra month.
Yeah.
That you didn't complain about too much.
Nope.
But that was outside your control too.
We had some friends, Susan and Michelle, Susan's dad lives near us. So often when they travel from New York City out to visit him, we schedule a espresso date or a morning date, or they come in the afternoon for a cup of soup or something. And they were supposed to come this past weekend. And then they wrote to us, oh, no, we can't make it. There was something that happened. And it was like, great. It's perfect. Not that we didn't want to see them, but I'm really fine that I don't think of them as my plans being thwarted anymore. Right. It's generally, I have plans and they happen or they don't.
Well, this is interesting. I was sitting watching television this morning, and I have this thought: I shouldn't watch as much television as I watch. There are rules that have been set in place by who knows what, my upbringing, my resistance to my parents telling me not to watch television. Who knows? But I have the idea that I watch too much television or I'm wasting my life. But at the same time, that's when my life is taking place, in front of that screen for that moment. So I can either make myself wrong or enjoy watching the commercial, if that's what shows up. See, your life is like a television screen. It shows up the way it does. Your response to it is really up to you.
Well, not initially. Your response to it in general is
Mechanical.
Reactive and mechanical. And what you do with that is up to you.
Right. Oh, that's great.
But there is a space of neutrality that you can reach or achieve or find that allows the events that are going on to take place around you, but they don't, it's like being in the eye of a hurricane. They don't have to carry you away. You can see what's needed and wanted and provided, rather than get lost in an emotional response when things don't go the way you prefer.
I love that. Since meeting, you guys in this community, that's become an actual possibility for me. Where, like you say, the things happen around me, and I see my opportunity to go to get carried away with it, or to look and see what I want, what's appropriate for me.
Well, for instance, before we go to the break, it occurs to me that you did that this morning. The person who jumped in to help reschedule the gal who couldn't make it today, clearly there was a disconnect and it didn't happen. So when we said to you, you said, oh, well, I'm here, because you are actually the engineer recording the show. So it was not your plan to be the guest today. And yet, when circumstances changed, you leapt into what was possible to see what would happen, or because it was appropriate, or for whatever reason.
On a much less esoteric level, your dog was chewing on a bone on the hardwood floor, and you picked up the bone and put it on a rug so it would be quiet. That's the same thing in a smaller way. It's looking and seeing, what can I do to have this be balanced? You know, we live in a world that's constantly stressing us towards upset.
Can I tell you something? I love that example.
The dog bone?
Well, because his dog is a dog. The dog does not know hardwood floors get scratched. Therefore, he shouldn't put his bone on the hardwood floor.
And I wasn't thinking it was scratched as much as the noise that it made, which is what he was thinking.
So
about.
there, he just looked and saw and handled without having the situation be wrong first, and that he was making it right. He was just.
What if it's all right? And then you just adjust. You know, Ariel said to me, just put the breakfast dishes in the sink so we can get upstairs for the.
And he was like, in the sink? He normally does them immediately. So when I went down to make tea, I put them in the dishwasher.
Yes, but they were washed in the sink. They didn't have egg crusted on them.
That's right. You rinsed them. So it was a one.
I didn't rinse them. I washed them.
Oh, I didn't
and put
know
them in
that.
the sink
Well,
but you see, this is a thing. Egg yolk, if left to sit and dry for long periods of time, is harder to get off. So it takes just a moment to clean them up while they're still soft. Why not?
Yeah, love it.
Hey, thanks for stepping in today. And this has been a fun, eclectic, wide set of conversations. And it's been a real treat being with you.
Yes.
Same. Love you guys.
Love you too, baby.
Love you back. It's that time.
The time for what?
Our listener feedback spotlight.
What is that?
Well, I'm so proud of the people who listen to this show. And now we get to hear from one or more of them about what's happening in their lives with transformation by listening to this podcast and
what they've discovered about life, what they've discovered about their lives, that they are experiencing fun in their lives.
And that they want to share it with you.
Yeah.
This is Cheryl in Hong Kong. I really love transformation, and whether it's a podcast or the books, which is how I originally found Ariel and Shia Kane. Over the years, and especially with each interaction, I find out a little bit more and more about myself. I feel like I'm peeling a layer, or like an onion of myself, and getting to my true self, which in turn allows me to connect more and more or deeper with people, with friends, with family. And it's just a wonderful way to discover who I am and who my family, friends, and everyone else is.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shia's lively, interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events, or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
We have Living Made Easy seminars coming up on Saturdays and Mondays. We have the occasional Tuesday once a month. You can go to transformationmadeeasy.com and find out what's coming up next for you. And our weekend seminars, as I mentioned earlier, Leap into Life, April 30th and May 1st.
We have another one coming up in June 11th and 12th, called New Beginnings.
It's all new when you're here for it.
Well, exactly. When you're here for it, life shows up newly in each moment. But when you're lost in your thoughts about how it should be different, it never shows up new.
And
It's always same old, same old.
yeah, we personally invite you to
Play
attend.
with us.
Yeah. Recently, we had a lovely woman, Hannah, come from Washington State. She has been listening to our podcast for after reading a book of ours 5 years ago. She's been part of this community, and
We never knew she existed.
and she stepped in, and it has been such a lovely person to meet. And if you have an impulse to do that either on the Living Made Easy Saturdays, Mondays, Tuesdays, or for a weekend, we invite you to leap
Into the moment.
Shout out to Joe, who suggested this topic and including the description for this podcast. Thanks for everything. People are, I'll bet you they're happy you made that suggestion. Let's take our next guest, shall we?
Yes, shall we?
All right, Bjarne, welcome to being here. And where are you?
Hello. I'm joining from Hamburg, Germany,
Awesome.
and with a bit of last 2 days and also today stormy and really windy weather. But it's great being inside. Just get a blanket and enjoy the coziness.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice excuse to be able to be inside with the coziness when it's all
Better than when it would be 30 degrees outside. But just listening to the wind sometimes and use the blanket. Cozy, it's great.
Well, what can we do for you, my friend?
What a bit of a topic or thing where I'm thinking already last weeks on it. Since I have a new girlfriend on my side, I'm not feeling really comfortable on my side with the sex and sexual contact. And might be for me the reason that before the relationship was a bit longer time ago. I had like with other person, the other woman sexual contact, and it's for me a bit, I want to do, of course, everything right, but I'm not feeling so comfortable. It's not like I would like that it's different than it's now, and I'm not sure if I can change it.
Okay, let's slow down, young man. I really love you. You know that.
Congratulations for articulating that. Well done.
That's very cool. You know, people are weird around two things in life usually: money and sex. So we'll leave the money alone. Let's talk about sex, because I've been having sex for a very long time. And so I consider myself experienced. Exactly. You pulled the right word. Experienced. What about sex do you find challenging?
I think to enjoy it.
You find it difficult to enjoy. That's because you have attention on how you're doing and if you're doing it right.
I have a question for you. I don't know your girlfriend, so I don't know her.
You're what, 19 years old now?
Yes, right.
Okay, good. That's important to know, because if I think back when I was 18 or 19, I had a very different outlook on sex than I do these days.
Well, I am experienced as well, not only with Shia, but prior to Shia. And from my personal experience, I want to tell you a couple of different things that happened for me. Some of the most satisfying sex I ever had prior to Shia, because we've been together for a long time, was getting together with a gentleman who was really forthright that he didn't know what he was doing. And he was interested in me showing him what I liked. And it was, for me, a little uncomfortable just because I was somewhat prudish. I was a little tight. So articulating what I liked was a bit challenging, but it was nice. It was nice that he wasn't pretending that he knew better than I did about what I wanted. On the other end of the spectrum, I had a man who I dated briefly, very briefly, and we had a sexual encounter. And he was so certain that he was God's gift to sex and women. He knew what he was doing and wanted no input from me. And whether or not I was orgasmic or had pleasure wasn't about me having pleasure. It was that he succeeded in producing the desired result. It was the one and only time in my entire life I ever faked an orgasm just to get rid of him. So I want to say that there's at least a potential that you're not having all the answers and being uncomfortable. If you're straightforward with your girlfriend, might be an incredible gift.
Yeah, your innocence is a gift. You see, what you don't know, you can discover. And look, most of us were taught about sex from other kids who haven't had sex.
Because did you ever go to your parents and go, hey, tell me how it's done? I mean,
I didn't.
I didn't.
Did you?
Quite open this topic with my parents.
Oh, good for you.
But not exactly like that.
Yeah.
Right, because you're blushing now as we speak about it. So, look, it's about being there. It's about allowing yourself to experience what you're experiencing and not finding fault with you for being new at this. You know, in Zen, there's something called beginner's mind, where you operate as if you don't know, where you're learning in each moment, where you're a beginner. There's nothing wrong with being a beginner, especially with sex, because it's all new to you, really.
I think one of the things that may complexify things a little, Bjarne, is if you have the outside pressure in yourself to have it work out with this girlfriend, have it last long term. So then whether it's about sex or where you want to eat dinner, if you are a little nervous, she may not like Chinese food, but that's what you really want. You may shave off the edges of your communication because you want to be liked and you want it to last.
And you want to keep the relationship going.
So, of course, the subject of sex is generally, for most of us, a little bit more tender as far as talking about things because we've been trained that it's private or different. I have a feeling it's not the only area where you're finding yourself.
I need to say we are communicating great also on the topic sex. She's telling me everything, I tell her everything what I don't like, or that I'm uncomfortable with that, and she knows everything also. She knows that. But for me, I think I take stress, what has nothing to do with relationship or the sex, stress from outside with it inside. And so it's hard for me like to be there, calm down, and like enjoy it, because like in my mind a bit, I'm still somewhere else.
Well, you are normal.
You think that's going to go away?
You see, the thing is this, Ariel and I have been together for 40 years.
Close. We're going
In July, it'll be 40 years. So it's close enough that I could say that and be still accurate. And when we're having sex, there are times when my mind is off somewhere else. And then my body goes dead. Then her body goes dead. But
and then we're like, what happened?
What happened?
And I often find for the two of us, Bjarne, that, you know, when you say that your mind is busy and you have a hard time basically landing where you are so you can feel things, that's one of the beauties of sex, is that you start where you are, which is often your mind really busy. You've had a busy day, or you're defended, or you're going somewhere, or you're lost in something you got done or didn't get done. And then you're here with this intimacy. And it's the opportunity to recognize what's happening with your thoughts and give yourself the grace to let that wind down and to keep being here and being here. And eventually, if don't judge yourself for having a busy mind, it'll leave you alone.
The problem, my friend, is that as Ariel's saying this to you, you're thinking about other things. You caught that?
Mm.
So it doesn't matter where you are, your mind is going to talk to you about the last thing that you had going on. So whether it's having sex or having a meal, there's very little difference. Except sex is cool in that you have this energy that sex brings up in you. You know, there's a sexual drive that propagates the species. So it can pull you into the moment, but your thoughts keep taking you out of the moment. So you don't have to have sex to get rid of this busy mind. You just need to allow yourself to notice it, not make it wrong for being the way it is. Because you see, you can't be different than you are in the current moment of your life.
3 principles of instantaneous transformation. Anything you judge or you don't want or you resist, you think is the wrong way to be,
That
not only
sticks around.
stays, but it tends to intensify. And the second, and we'll do it with this sexual situation, you get together with your girlfriend, you can only be exactly as you are in that moment. So your mind is busy or it's not, you're feeling things or you're not, you feel relaxed or you don't. In that instant, you can only be exactly as you are. And third, anything you allow to be exactly as it is completes itself in an instant.
So if you're worrying about whether you'll be able to have an erection or if you're worried that you may prematurely ejaculate, you'll produce those things. You'll produce what you're worried about. Because then you're not really there with your girlfriend. You're in this conversation. How can I not come too soon? You know that conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So part of that, if you're having a busy mind, it's telling you that your attention is on you. And one of the ways to trick yourself into the moment is to, for instance, as an example, put your attention into your fingers so that when you touch your partner, you're experiencing how she's registering it, you're feeling it, you put your attention on her rather than on you and how you're doing it, it will relieve you.
Right, yeah.
The other thing
Sounds
is
good.
sometimes before Shai and I have sex, we often have sex in the evening, not always, sometimes it's during the day, but whatever. So if we're going to have sex, sometimes I want to take a shower first, just would feel better. And I step in the shower, my mind is busy. And then I'm like, good. This is what showers are for, to wash away my concerns of the day. Similarly with sex, my mind is busy. It's like, good. This is what this is for. If you embrace how you're being rather than think you should be a different way.
See, anything that you wish was different keeps you stuck where you are. If you think your mind is too loud and you're worried about how it's going to turn out, then that's exactly where you're stuck. You get stuck worrying about how it's going to turn out, how you're going to do if you will perform well, rather than enjoy being where you are, no matter what's going on. Oh, look, I'm worried that I'm going to come too soon. Okay.
Can I back up to something you said, Bjarne, because I have a feeling that you're misleading yourself. When you said we are fully open and she knows what I like and I don't like, and we've talked about everything. I believe you believe that, and you believe that to be true. And it's quite lovely that you guys have that kind of exchange. But I notice even now with Shai and I, it's really important if something occurs to me that I may not have said before, or if he has the impulse to say, hey, do you like this? Or he'll say, hey, tell me. It's a moment to moment thing. It's not like we have a conversation once express what we like to each other, and then it's a done deal. Part of
See,
it is
you'd
about
like
being
that.
here,
You'd like it to be over, that
handled.
that you got this thing handled. But life shows up newly in each moment, Bjarne. And so the game is to be there for how it's showing up and see what needs to be said, if something needs to be said. See what's being called for rather than what you think. Because your thoughts in the matter are just old stuff repeating itself. If you look, you'll see what's needed.
The thing is, what you didn't like once may be different now. What you didn't like once may have been born of an already ongoing upset. I've talked about this other times. In the early days, I found sex much more challenging, confronting, and certainly orgasms were very elusive for me. And part of it was the mental challenges, but certainly I had a hormone imbalance that once that got later in life figured out, things were a lot easier. But I had the idea, I don't like the lights on too high. I don't like this many pillows. I don't like this kind of music. And Shai was so smart. He fixed all the things I said I didn't like. Oh, that's too soft. That's too hard. That's too. And the challenge was, once he fixed all the things I said I didn't like, it didn't get any better. And then I realized that the agitation was within me and had nothing to do with the outside circumstances.
So the agitation you feel doesn't have anything to do, or very little to do, with the particular woman you find yourself with.
Right.
It's yours.
So you may
Now, if you allow yourself to feel your own anxiety, upset, angst, if you allow yourself to feel that, it can complete itself. If you blame it on her, then you'll forever have that stuff.
Or even if you blame it on you, or blame it on what you learned, your parents,
Just accept it and allow it to be.
Well, maybe, but when you say accept it and allow it, it's you're wanting to have an answer rather than to step into your next encounter and see who you are.
Step into the unknown and discover who she is and who you are, rather than think you already know. You know, like I said, I've been with Ariel for almost 40 years. And a couple of nights ago, we had some of the most amazing, sensual time together.
And the previous couple times together had been a little bit flat. And we're like, that was flat. It wasn't like the ones before were bad and this one was good, although we really appreciated having the ability to be intimate with each other and feel and have it be sweet. Every moment is different.
That's the thing. Life is showing up newly in each moment. So if you're comparing it to how it was, this is never good enough. See, you can never be satisfied in your thoughts. Your mind cannot be satisfied. Your being can be satisfied, but your mind cannot be. So no matter how good it is, you probably have noticed this other places too. No matter how good it is, you find something to find fault with.
I just want to mention one other thing. As Shai said, we've been together for almost 40 years. And I still find that when I'm really here, when we're being physically intimate and having a sexual encounter, to use your words, I'll place my hand somewhere, like on a shoulder or somewhere. It doesn't really matter where. And it's like, oh, this is new. Not just the experience of the touch is new, but sometimes I feel as if I'm touching him in ways it never occurred to me to do before. So it's like this whole new possibility blossoms out. So I have a feeling that if you have a desire to have it figured out and under control, you may be missing some really wonderful explorations, not only in the sexual arena, but in as you're looking at what you want to do with school, or where you want to go with work, or where you want to live, or how you want to go about your life.
I was just reminded, a thought came to me of when I was in my early 20s and I was a lifeguard on the beach. And there was this very sexy girl who came to my parents' home. Nobody was home but me and her. And we had sex. And then the following day, another lifeguard came up to me and poked fun at me because she said to him that all I wanted to do was have sex and come and get it over with. And they were both right, because I was prudish. Even though I had a lot of sex drive, a lot of energy going in that way, I still had a prudishness about sex, an embarrassment about sex that was there. Man, you have, this is a different generation, by the way.
It's great that you can be open about sex with your
Parents.
It was not an option.
No, it was not
younger.
talked about in our. But at the same time, I think as human beings, we have this intimacy issue. Being able to relax into being intimate with another person and not trying to get it, not trying to figure out how to be. Look, you're 19 years old. Enjoy being 19 years old. Don't try to be 25. And for certain, don't try to be 81.
And at some point, you'll probably look back and at least potentially wish you still had this many unknowns.
Yeah, that just shows me some new thoughts or like new ways to see this. It's great. Great talking with you about that.
And great, not only great talking with you, very generous of you to be that
honest
with folks, because there are a lot of people who wish they had the ability to articulate things you did today, and they might be a little embarrassed or shy. So good on you, buddy. Awesome. Hey, if you enjoyed this podcast with Bjarne like we did, and with Dave, of course, you can leave a review on your favorite podcast app. It helps other people find being here. So if you feel to do it, thanks in advance. Ready for next week's show topic?
Yes.
I'm the captain of my soul. It's from a
Invictus by Robert Ernest Henley.
We'll be back next week. So come on back.
And don't miss being here.